Good afternoon. I'm Brett Weber. I'm with the Grand Forks City Council and the city's Jobs Development Authority. In partnership with the Grand Forks Region Economic Development Corporation, the Grand Forks East Grand Forks Chamber of Commerce, and the Downtown Development Association, we've hosted a series of listening sessions. These sessions have already demonstrated the value of nimble local government. Last week, we heard your concerns, and by the end of the week, Mayor Brown was already announcing related policy changes. Grand Forks is ahead of the curve in preparing for and addressing the current COVID crisis, the related economic crisis, and starting today, the flood of 2020. With the information gathered during these listening sessions, the city and the business community are already creating the social and economic recovery plan that will help us to survive the rough days ahead. Then that plan will help us to thrive as we come out on the other side. Many communities will be devastated by the worldwide crisis. Unique communities like Grand Forks will emerge even stronger. 1997 taught us how to survive challenges and how to rebuild. Our established flood protection systems, our collaborative governing structures, our proximity to what may be a much stronger Canadian dollar, and the reality that we are in a building boom ready to move ahead, all point toward a high potential for strong recovery. These listening sessions are meant to gather from you, the business community, gather information from you. Today we focus on leaders in the food and hospitality industry. The city and its partners want to know your challenges, what you need for support, and your ideas for solutions. We'll share those ideas with city government and with our state and federal partners. Today's panel members include individuals from the business community, public health, job services, the Department of Commerce, and the state's Small Business Development Center. Here's how it'll work. We'll be utilizing the chat function as our main means of communicating with you. If you hover your cursor toward the bottom of the screen, you'll see the chat option pop up. Please open that. That's where you'll enter your questions, comments, concerns, and any issues you might have. Additionally, the chat window allows us to retain a transcript of all the questions you've asked. That way we won't miss anything, and we'll have an opportunity to follow up and record your questions and your concerns. These sessions are recorded and then posted online, so this is public information. We're also fortunate that the press attends these, so we're getting the information out as quickly as possible, and that's how we're going to be rolling today. So with that, I'd like to begin by introducing Mayor Brown. Mayor Brown, please.
It's coming. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to connect with the city and let us hear your concerns. And I'm very pleased with the networking where we're finding solutions to some problems and mitigating things early. So again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Javen Bedard from the Public Health, is he with us yet? I know he was in a press conference. There we go. Javen, a lot of our concern today has to do with restaurants and physical distancing during this period. We'll give you the next few minutes, please.
Well, there's been a lot of guidance put out by the Food and Lodging Division of the state, and we have tried to email it out to every food establishment in town. So if you haven't got that, we're resending that again, so please look for it. There's a little bit of difference between what's allowed and what's ideal. So let me talk about what's ideal. The ideal is to try to keep people as separated as possible. And so our preference would be curbside and keeping people in the car, not coming through the door, not having lines. That is the ideal we're really looking for, really to limit that social interaction and limit the amount of surfaces that you have to keep clean and common touch. So that's kind of our goal, to not have community spread of this. The disease is not known to spread through food itself. As long as you're practicing your food code related safety measures and excluding ill workers. So, you know, it's all about the social distancing.
Javen, I know when I ordered for takeout last week from a downtown restaurant, I was still going inside and paying with credit card. This week when I ordered, That's all being taken over the phone, which really is nice that I'm not having to hand somebody a card and then take that back from them. Increasingly, we're going to curbside, as you said. Any other comments about how to do the physical distancing with takeout? You've kind of covered it, but if there's anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning the payment method. If we could, limit those interactions as well, that would be best. When you have your takeout delivery workers going, they can leave the food outside the door and try to limit your contact there as well. Those would be some of the measures that we'd recommend, but certainly go to North Dakota Department of Health Food and Lodging website. They have multi-page recommendations for you guys.
All right, thank you, Javen. And when you do pay over the phone or online, please consider tipping generously and support local business there. We'll be hearing from Jonathan Holt a little bit later and hear about how to implement some of the changes that have already been announced by the city. But at this point, I know a lot of businesses, but especially local restaurants, have had to lay off staff. And so, Dusty Hillebrand from Job Service, you're up next, sir.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brett. First off, I just want to let everybody know that I am not a UI expert by any means. So the information that we go over today, some of it I will direct some of you to the Claim Center, because those are the folks that have all the answers, or should have the answers. But this bill that was just passed is huge, and it's a lot of information to go through. We've had it since, well, Saturday morning, I suppose. And, so really we're only 2.5 work days into this, trying to get through all the information. So be patient with us, please, because it's a lot of information. Just to give you a little rundown, if you watched the governor yesterday, as of Monday, or on Monday this week, we had 2,803 initial claims. Yesterday at 3 o'clock, we had 1,400. Since March 16th, we've had 24,667 claims. And this is all what the governor said yesterday. Just to compare that, in the whole year of 2019, we had 25,000. So we are busy.
Trying to process a year's worth of claims in just a week or two.
Yep.
Can you say anything about how long is the wait time between when someone files and when they can start receiving benefits?
Sure. So contrary to what many people are believing, we have not waived the waiting week for North Dakota. And the reason behind that is that we would have to take the entire system down to reprogram it. And I think there'd be a lot more people upset with that than having to wait the week. So what does that mean? So you get laid off today, this would be your waiting week. And then the next week you would get paid for, but you wouldn't receive that payment until the following week. So you're 3 weeks out.
Okay, well, that's important for people to know that's the way it's going. Can you tell us anything about self-employed people, business owners, especially individuals who might be the only employee in their business? What's available for them now?
So according to what I've seen, and our FAQs on our website, which jobsnd.com, it's, yes, part of the CARE Act is, touches on those folks. Again, we are waiting for our system to get up to date. They're working on putting all that information in. It's a lot of information, a lot of program that goes into changing all that. And so, yes, they are part of folks that have like a 1099. They will be able to apply for benefits. Even business owners will be able, if they have to shut their business down, they'll be able to. Again, a lot of this information is very new, very fluid. It just hasn't been done before.
And that was not the case just a couple weeks ago, but that is the case now.
Right, exactly.
Important information. All right. And Dusty, we're hearing from Joe Bittner in Polk County DAC, a Minnesota employer with North Dakota workers. Where should those workers be applying for unemployment benefits?
So if they are working in North Dakota and that's their home, so their office is here in North Dakota, those employees, the unemployment insurance benefits are being paid to, or premiums are being paid to North Dakota. So therefore they should be applying or filing in North Dakota.
So if they're an employee, if they go to work in Minnesota, but they live in Grand Forks, they apply for benefits in North Dakota.
No, they would apply in Minnesota. So whatever state that
okay.
you're working in is what you're going to be applying for.
It's your work address, not your home address.
Right.
Very good. And as you've noted a couple of times, this is a rapidly changing situation, but we've heard that in last week's bill, Jonathan Christensen is asking, was there additional money added to unemployment checks? And do we know what that might be?
So from what I've read and what's in our FAQs, there is an additional $600 that will be added to the weekly benefits for pretty much everybody, and it's not guaranteed, but pretty much everybody will receive that. That's on unemployment.
And a related question, employees who are here on a student visa, can they apply for unemployment?
That's a really good question. That would have to go up to our call center. I can find that out though.
Very good. And it's important to note, it's not the purpose of these listening sessions to provide information to all of your questions, but to gather those questions and then to get the answers and get that answer out there. So we have some other links that have been posted. And again, going back, if my employees work in both states, do they apply with the state that they live in, or do they apply in both states? Dusty, do you know that one?
That's a good question. So if wherever they're mainly housed at, so if the office is here in North Dakota, if it's in Grand Forks, and they do, they're doing business, if it's like a contracting company or something like that, and they're working over in Minnesota or North Dakota, my guess would be that they would file in North Dakota. But we do have a business line, and so the unemployment business line for questions like that is 701-328-2866.
Very good on that second line there, the business unemployment line. And it's good to know that people can call a telephone. While most of us are online, a lot of these systems are also online, but not everyone is online. There are individual contractors, for instance, who may not have much more than a flip phone, been out there doing good, hard work for a long time, needing these benefits now. So it's good to know, Justy, that they can call and get assistance there. Is that a phone tree, or is there someone that's going to answer their call there?
I've actually never called into that one. I've called our unemployment hotline many times, and that starts off automated, but typically you do get a person. So my guess would be for the business one would be that it's probably set up the same. So you listen and just follow along, and sooner or later you will get an actual person.
And it's great having you join us, because in all of our sessions, there have been lots of questions about these unemployment issues. This is a real frontline issue. People, again, asking about the additional money under the CARES Act. Do you know, and as has been noted, it's a rapidly changing situation. Will they have to apply for additional money, or will it just be added to the current unemployment benefits process? Do you know answers to those questions at this time?
Yep, that's actually on our FAQ. It will be added to their weekly benefit. They won't have to reapply. So right now, if you're collecting unemployment, you would, the dollars should be just automatically added. The $600 will be automatically added to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks again for taking the time to be with us today. I'm hoping you're able to stick around because I suspect those won't be the last questions related to your work there. But let's move now to Jonathan Holt and get the perspective of a business owner out there trying to implement some of these changes that the city has created in the recently. Jonathan.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, and I won't take too much time because I want to leave plenty of time for questions and discussion here. But as Brett mentioned in his opening comments, this listening session that we held with you all last week was pretty instrumental in some significant changes that happened regarding licensing and some orders from the mayor last week. So I think it just underscores the importance of your voices as we move forward and you letting us know what you're seeing. A couple of things that changed. I think you all know, many of you implemented them immediately for Class 4 license holders. They were able to start selling beer and wine in an off-sale function immediately to their customers via takeout and curbside. And then the following day, Class 1 and Class 4 license holders were able to start delivering beer and wine with food orders. So again, an effort, I think, from city leaders to recognize that that there was some perishable inventory that restaurant and bars were holding on to that stood a chance of not being usable after a certain amount of time. So we, as we talked after the last listening session as a panel, there's been a lot of information that's new that's come out since that was the first listening session we had last week. So there's been a lot of new information regarding unemployment, regarding things happening both at the state and federal level. So we felt it was important to get this group back together. The last thing that I'll say is, and I made this comment last week and on every listening session we had, we recognize that you all have faced some impossible leadership decisions with seemingly no right answers in the past couple of weeks. And sometimes that's not super easy to talk about in a public chat function in front of 100 people. So we want to let you know that all of us here on the panel are here for you to reach out to us privately if you'd rather not speak about it or have questions or comments and you don't want to speak as a part of this listening session. I just sent my contact information through on the chat box so everybody can have it if you want to reach out to myself or to Brett via phone or email after the meeting. Please don't hesitate to do so. I think, with the license changes, we've demonstrated that our city leaders are committed to helping our industry as much as they can. I think we've demonstrated that local government has the ability, as Brett put it, to be more nimble at times and make necessary changes to help our local businesses. As someone who has small businesses in multiple cities in North Dakota, I can tell you that the amount of dialogue and just care shown by city leaders in Grand Forks has been significantly more than in other cities. And I think that's important. Although we don't have a lot of answers right now, and this is difficult to make changes on the fly, I can tell you, as someone who's been a part of these conversations, that your city leaders are committed to helping you in the best way possible as more information comes out. So again, thanks for being a part of this. Your voice matters and it's important, and we're looking forward to answering any questions that we might be able to today. Thanks.
Jonathan, I know in some of our conversations you'd also mentioned that accounting requirements and needs are part of this changing environment. Can you comment on that quickly?
Accounting requirements and needs, you said?
I thought that you'd mentioned that you'd received some information on the changing accounting, the changing accounting environment during this period. Maybe I misunderstood.
It might have been someone else, but so there might be someone else in the panel that can speak better to that than I.
Very good, thanks. We've been very fortunate to have Courtney Jensen from the State Department of Commerce join us, I believe, for every one of the listening sessions, and she's here today. Courtney, welcome and thanks for joining us again.
Hi, thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you very well.
Okay, great. When I'm muted on one side and unmuted on the other, I get a little confused sometimes. So I've made it to all of the listening sessions but one. Unfortunately, that one I had a couple of meetings scheduled at the same time and wasn't able to attend, but I did get an update after the fact. So I was invited to talk about a couple of different things. Number one is the North Dakota Department of Commerce has sent out a business survey. And I believe that most of you have received this business survey already through your local economic developers. If you haven't, please let us know in the chat. This survey is a very important survey for the state right now. Our administration and our governor are very numbers-based. It's a very numbers-based administration. They really want to see the proof of what the needs are. And so this survey is the way that we are trying to aggregate that information, and so that we can get the best programs and services put into place to try to augment some of those that have already been brought in by the federal government, and the efforts that are being made on the local level, like this group, and all of the resources I've seen and all the changes I've seen made by the power of a group like this. And I've talked many times to my colleagues within the state about what a great job your group is doing, and your city and your community is doing. And so thank you to all of the people who are part of this call, and to all of you who are on the call submitting your questions, because if you don't submit your questions, we don't know how to go and find you the answers. And I appreciate when any of the people who are speaking take a moment to say, well, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find the answer to that. And then finding that answer means that we can then publish that information and get it out to everyone. So these questions are very important. If you've thought of the question, there's a likelihood a lot of other people have thought of the same question and have a need for that answer. The other thing that I want to talk about just for a few moments is the CARES Act that was passed on March 27th. That's the act that has those expanded unemployment features that were already discussed, and then also has what some people are referring to as the PPP, or the PPP, the Payment Protection Act. So the Payment Protection, it is another loan. It is also through the SBA, just like the emergency disaster loan that many of you have already applied for. The emergency disaster loan has been something you've applied for online through the SBA, or the Small Business Association. The PPP, or the Payment Protection program, is actually going to be done through your individual lenders. So those lenders are going to be the SBA approved, are going to be guided by the SBA to do these loans for you. These are loans. They are not grants. I know I've heard over and over again people say that these are grants. They are a traditional loan. It's a 10-year loan. It's a shorter term loan. You can get up to $10 million in this, but it is a loan. When people are talking about a grant, what they're talking about is that there has been a partial forgiveness potential for this loan. So what that means is that part of that money you cannot have to pay back if you can maintain employment of your employees through the critical period of time. And so it's talking about employment through June 30th as of right now. And for this partial forgiveness, it is specific to payroll costs. It's payroll costs above a certain amount. It is costs for paying out sick leave or medical leave. It's costs for monthly payroll taxes and things like that. It's all the forgiveness piece is based on those payroll costs. Now, this loan is also a loan that isn't just for payroll. You can also use it for mortgage payments. You can also use it for pre-existing debt payments that you have to pay for as a business. So there's more options for what you can use this money for. But just to be clear, the part that's the forgivable part is specific to payroll. And I get a lot of questions about who qualifies, what employees, what payroll. What I would like to do is direct all of you. There is on ndresponse.gov. And when I'm done talking, I'll put all this in the chat, but at ndresponse.gov, there is a really great question and answer section that is specific to this Payroll Protection and CARES Act. And it has a lot of really good detailed information. And I can tell you also that Nicole Evans in Grand Forks and Paul Smith in Fargo, and there's great representation for your small business development centers that can answer a lot more in depth to these questions, even beyond what the FAQs on our website or on their websites can give you for information. What you can say, what they're saying right now is you can take your average monthly payroll and multiply that by 2.5 to kind of get an idea of how much money that you would qualify for. And again, this is for salaries, sick leave, medical costs, your insurance premiums for your employees. And again, you can use the money to pay your mortgage or your rent, or to pay for existing debt. One thing that I have been asked that I think is really an important thing to note is that employees that are from outside of the US, so people who are on a work visa, don't qualify in this payroll. And I've gotten that answer from a couple of different sources today, and so that's an important thing to note. Also, if you've laid off employees previous to this, you can still hire them back, and you can still qualify for that forgiveness. So there are people who jumped in right away, or had to lay people off. Now this gives you the opportunity to hire them back. Somebody is asking if you can apply for both the PPP and the economic disaster loan. You can, and the answer from Blue is actually up here already, but you can apply for both of those loans. They just cannot be used to pay for the same expenses. Similarly, with the emergency disaster loan, there's a $10,000 amount that you can get right away. I've heard within 3 days of being approved for that EIDL SBA loan, that $10,000, if you get that, and then you subsequently apply for and get the payment protection loan and get forgiveness, whatever's forgiven, they're going to subtract that $10,000 off, only if you've gotten both and taken advantage of both. So basically, you can't double dip on any of this. One other thing that's, I think, important to note about this loan versus the EIDL loan, the PPP, you do not have to, you can have other liquidity, you can have other resources available to you and still apply. Whereas for the EIDL, you really do have to show that this is the source of income that you need. And I'm trying to take a quick look here through some of these other questions.
Should just full-time employees come back full-time with extra odd jobs? What does that look like?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling down here.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you have full-time employees, you should have them come back full-time.
But if they've been, they've closed or they're open for just very limited hours, does that still have to be full-time employees? Or can you bring them back part-time?
My understanding is that it does need to be full-time employees. However, if there is someone on the call that has more information on that, I can also check in with our local SBA or our local SBDC, excuse me, and get an answer to that question. The last I had heard, and again, as you've said a couple of times, Brett, we have an ever-changing set of circumstances here, and we're all doing the best we can to give each other the best answers we can. But the other piece that I need to make sure that we mention here is that if you bring your employees back, you do need to recognize that those employees then will be taken off of unemployment. So that's a conversation a lot of businesses have been having. Also, if you are a sole proprietor or a contract worker, you can apply as an individual business for this as well. If you are a business that works with contractors, that contractor's wages are not considered in your employment costs. They have to be your employee. It's not a contracted employee.
Sure, sure. All right. Well, thanks. A wealth of information there. And Courtney, Blue is offering to follow up with you on some of this, and he'll get back to people who have been asking those questions that we maybe didn't have all the answers to, but a wealth of information. Thank you again for joining us, Courtney. Before we go on, I want to make sure that we don't miss an important question from Matt Bonzer, followed up by Jonathan Christensen, Sarah Horak, and I'm guessing many others out there in the community, asking about Class 1 license holders who are bars who might sell some food, and they might be able to be selling some food for takeaway right now, but their main income stream has been beverages. Is it possible for them to develop some sort of packaging process to be able to provide signature drinks for takeout. That is certainly an issue that needs to be taken up with the mayor's office and the city attorney. Hopefully we can get an answer for you on that as quickly as we got action last week on a similar question. So thanks for posting that. This will be recorded and will be acted upon. So Matt, Jonathan, Sarah, Joe, and anyone else who is interested in that, we'll be getting back to you. You can be assured that we'll get information probably on an evolving basis as we work through those issues. With that, I'd like to now introduce and move over to Julie Rigg from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Julie.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Just a few things I'd like to bring up as everyone's going through this tough time. We're trying to promote local businesses, mostly to local people right now, as much as we possibly can. So we'd like you to share any information that you might have. We're doing daily gift card giveaways to local businesses on social media. We are doing blogs and social media posts and e-blasts about businesses that are open, restaurants that are offering curbside and delivery, stores that you can shop online at. And we're also putting together a list of hotels that are offering special rates for healthcare workers or essential workers. And we do have a handful so far that are offering that. And so I would encourage you, and I'll put my email address in the comments. I would encourage you to reach out to me and let me know. We will also supply care packages for those workers. So something to give them as they're away from their families and they're out there doing this essential work for us. Again, we want to help out as much as possible, so please keep us posted on how we can better promote you. For the next couple of months, the Convention and Visitors Bureau will be more about reaching out to local people, and we're happy to do that. And we want to really help those local businesses as much as possible.
Very good. Thank you, Julie. And I see a nice shout out for you from some fans in the chat box there. So nice work. Courtney, there is another question. I don't know if this is for you or for Dusty. If part-time employees would actually be better off under unemployment, and we only brought back full-time workers, can they still apply for the PPP for just a portion of their workforce?
Absolutely. So they'll prorate what you can apply for based on who you have still employed when you get to the end of that period that goes through June 30th. So they'll prorate it. And the answer to the question about whether part-time employees can be covered is actually yes, but it will be a prorated amount. And when you look at the FAQs that are listed, and I say look at those because this is the source I'm using right now, it does talk about what's forgivable is in excess of a certain salary requirement. And so that information before you go in to apply is something that you will need to talk with either your loan officer about or potentially one of the SBDC representatives to really look at before you go and put people back on your payroll, what's the most advantageous way for both you and for your employees. Keeping in mind with your employees, from their perspective, if they say something like, well, it's better for me to be on unemployment because I'll make more money. When this is all said and done, there are going to be more people to employ than there are going to be jobs. So if you want to keep your people, just reminding them that that might be the case for at least a little while, that there's just some value in keeping that relationship with you as their employer. And then from your perspective, there's some value for you to be able to keep those people as well that you know and have trained and have been good employees.
And another question kind of in the same vein, if an employee has only been at the company for a short period of time, I believe that there's traditionally a limit. You can't have a job for a couple of weeks and then apply for unemployment, but these are extraordinary times. Does the CARES Act or other changes in Minnesota or North Dakota accommodate those kinds of situations?
You know, I have to say, I don't know the answer to that. That's more detailed than I would know. Dustin, do you have information on that?
Yeah, so yes. So for unemployment for North Dakota, we go back, our base period is the last 5 quarters, with the closest quarter not counting. So if you've employed somebody who's just moved to the state within the last 3 months, they're not going to have enough wages, or they won't have any wages, honestly, because that won't count. When you talk about part-time employees filing for unemployment, they're going to run into that same situation. Within the CARES Act, from what I've read, there is a provision for folks that have part-time or might not qualify. So again, you know, to get the best answer, I guess, would be to hold on and wait for us to get the FAQ out, or you can call our business line. But I believe that with the CARES Act, those folks would be able to apply. And if they don't qualify for the state dollars, they would qualify for the federal dollars. That's $600. Again, very changing atmosphere here, environment. We're hopefully we'll have the right answers out here soon, but.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Dusty. And going back to that previous conversation about further changes in local liquor license laws, I see Ryan Brooks from the city's community development office assuring those who have posted that that request will be forwarded, and Ryan will be back in touch with everyone along with the DDA and get word out on that changing situation. Thanks. One of the things that we've talked about, especially in communities like Grand Forks for many, many years, is the need to buy local. This takes on a brand new level of urgency, and this may be a turning point for us to help a lot of us wake up and realize how critically important it is to the local economy to buy local. One of the things that we heard from Courtney last week was that people who are buying online, not only are they not buying local, but they're also potentially clogging up the supply line for critical inventory. So many needs, many reasons to buy local, but maybe the current COVID crisis is helping us think about that in some ways. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Blue Weber from the Downtown Development Association to see what they're up to these days. Blue.
Yeah, so first and foremost, this has been a great group to just get together to really tackle those immediate problems and figure out how to come up with solutions so quickly, but also working with our state. I know that Courtney and James are hearing from all of us probably every 5 minutes more than they want to, but it's been amazing working across the entire state. So some of the things that we've been excited to do is stepping into the realm of how are we, one of my favorite quotes that I've heard recently is not how are we going to get through this, but how are we going to change to get through this? And we've not just seen our businesses modify the way that they do things, but we've seen state and local governments really modify to do that. So all of our retailers are stepping into an online world, regardless of if their product is there or not, to engage with their customers and creating that experience still front door to the back of their building, just in a digital format. And our restaurants have stepped into that realm in such an amazing way. So supporting local is more important than it ever has been. We've been able to hear from so many restaurants about the different things that we always are trying to help. What I would kind of a call to action, retailers, please reach out to us. We're trying to jump onto any ideas and throw everything at a wall and see what sticks. So we got to hold our first digital shop hop yesterday, where we toured Grand Forks from 9 different locations to really see what products they were offering and see how you could support, be it through gift cards, through delivery, through curbside pickup, or even just supporting them by going online and giving them some reviews. So call to anybody who wants to reach out to me. Please, let's work together in this sense. And we're doing things that now I'm seeing pop up in Minneapolis and in Utah because of how forward thinking the Grand Forks community has been in this whole dilemma. And so please, any ideas, I will put my information on there as well. Reach out to me and let me know. We have amazing panelists who are also working tirelessly to help. So reach out to any of them. And that's kind of all I have.
Very good, Blue. One thing we've talked about in here quite a bit is the benefit of buying local gift cards. It's kind of a 0% interest loan that you can give a business, put money in their account right away. If I have a local business that I want to buy one of their gift cards, any tips for me on the best ways to do that? Oh, we've lost you. You've been muted there.
There we go.
There we go.
With our digital shop hop, we were asking people to contact them via Facebook, but also just calling them. I know I've ordered gift cards already that have gotten thrown in the mail and come right to me. And so it's such an easy way for them to still be able to keep that cash flow. And some of these are staffs of 1 or maybe up to 2. And so for them, it's so important to even have that minimal cash flow. And in such a strange time of going from winter to spring, so many of them are seeing a shift of all of their products in their stores. So they're kind of gearing up and trying to figure out what they're going to do with that. So that constant money coming in of gift cards, and it's hard. We're all in kind of a state where we don't know what the next day looks like. And so a lot of people, the easiest thing to stop spending money on is their clothes. And so one thing that we do recommend is figure out how you're not just looking at what tomorrow looks like, but look at 6 months down the road and make sure that you still want to have your community as strong as it was before we went into this. So supporting them through that, even sometimes as small as a $10 gift card, buying that for your neighbor or buying that for other people to keep that support.
When we reemerge, we want to be looking good. So if I want to take advantage of some local clothing shops, I know that I'm getting meals delivered to my home now that I wouldn't have been getting a month ago. Do we have other businesses engaging in delivery for the first time?
We do. I'll just point out a good example is Curious Clothing has been doing delivery packages of fun things. So be it that you need new hand lotion since you're sanitizing your hands every 30 seconds, or a new coffee mug since now all of us are sitting at home drinking coffee. These are immediate things that you can just buy for use locally and keep it in your own community.
Oh, and Julie's given us a great tip there too. Facebook.com, visit Grand Forks for our daily gift card giveaways.
And that was what I was going to say. If you haven't already started following that, it's an awesome way to be able to support local, not just from those businesses, but also the community organizations that are supporting those businesses.
Lots of great information popping up in the chat box there. If you haven't already done so, you'll want to hover your cursor around the bottom of the screen. You'll see a tool pop up that says chat. Click on that and you'll open up a chat box on the side of your screen. That's where you can enter questions, comments, and you can get a great deal of wonderful information here. One of the questions that came up directed to Dustin about exempt versus non-exempt employees, especially in relation to reducing hours. Can they reduce the pay for an exempt employee? Dustin, do you have anything for us on that?
Again, not an unemployment expert by any means.
Thanks for being here and for taking it on. We don't have to know all the answers. Yeah.
So that would be a question that I would suggest going to our business line and asking that for yourself. My thought, what I would believe in is that, and let me go back up to that question because I just saw it. As far as filing for unemployment, it shouldn't be any different for exempt or non-exempt. They're still going to file the same way. They're still going to have the same requirements to qualify. When it comes to the reduction of pay for an exempt employee, that I don't know.
Okay.
I can certainly find that out if you want. But that would be that's a question that's out of my realm.
Thank you, Dustin. That's from Deb Johnson over at Prairie Harvest. Deb, if you want to add any clarifying points on that question, but otherwise, Dusty's suggestion that you call that line. Jamie, could you put that slide up again with the contact information for job service?
And a question, Dusty, for you that I know Jonathan Christian had asked earlier. The FAQ that you guys are working on, any timeline for when that'll be up and people can kind of jump on there to look at those things?
Yeah, it's updated every day.
Oh,
every day.
cool.
I should say every day there's new information. This morning They updated it at about 9:30. And whatever they put that's updated is in red.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Sounds like a good site. Good. I think that Barry Wolford from the Grand Forks East Grand Forks Chamber of Commerce was with us. Barry or Keith Lund, either of you have anything to add at this time? Again, these are listening sessions, but you are getting a lot of information each day. Anything that you'd like, either of you would like to offer at this point?
Well, I can cover one thing. We're just about to hit send on a series of virtual events that the Chamber has been working on here the last couple of days. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we'll kick off our first one, and that's working remotely. We've got a couple of our tech companies who do a lot of installation of these remote systems in people's homes. And they're going to be talking about some of the technology pieces. We also are going to have someone on tomorrow talking about how they actually, some tips because they've been working in their home for years and years. Eric Giltner is going to MC all 5 of these sessions. They're going to be at from 1 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Zoom format. It's actually going to be on the same sign-in as you're on here today. And then on Friday, we're going to have one, take care of your unemployed and furloughed workers. Dusty is going to be joining us along with someone from the unemployment office in Bismarck. So we're going to have an additional expert on that. We're also going to have a couple HR directors talking about some of the things that they're doing to make sure that some of their laid off and furloughed workers so that they come back to work for them, because that's obviously very, very important. And then next Monday, we're going to have one on keeping employees safe. We have an expert from Altru along with a couple employers that they feel are doing a really good job. And they're going to be joining us to talk about some of the measures that employers can take to keep their employees as safe as possible from contracting this virus while they're still working. We have a lot of people in this community still working. And then on Tuesday, we're going to have some grants and loan resources and for Minnesota on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we've got some people coming in to talk about a banker's perspective, unpacking the federal program, and also some of the state resources. So these are going to be some, I think, informational virtual events and meetings we're going to be having. And we're going to be sending it out to about 3,000 emails here in just a couple of minutes. And we're also going to be asking our partners throughout the region, because this will actually go throughout this whole corner of the state of North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota. So we're expecting a good crowd on these Zoom meetings. And I want to thank Eric Giltner for agreeing to be the MC. I think, Eric from the SBA will do a great job of asking the right questions of these various panelists. So that's a little update. Look for your inbox later today.
Great, fantastic work, Barry. And thanks for doing that work, and thanks for mentioning the region. Grand Forks is not a regional island. We are a regional center of resources and collaboration for economic activity throughout the area. While we've been talking, I received an email from Dawn Mant from Red River Regional Council. I know you're working with her, so
Yes.
Thanks for that work. Keith,
Yes.
did you have anything? Thank you, sir.
I just want to, yes, thanks, Brett. I appreciate being on the call and you hosting it. I want to underscore the importance of the Commerce Survey, North Dakota Department of Commerce Survey that Courtney talked about a short time ago for a couple of reasons. One that Courtney mentioned is that this administration, the governor in particular, is very data-driven. So in terms of any local or any state response, you're going to want to see that validated through surveys across the state. So that's important that you participate. One thing she didn't mention, and I visited with her about this yesterday, is I don't know how quickly we'll get it, but the state has the ability to send information regionally to organizations like the city or the Economic Development Corporation that's relevant to this region. So with respect to regional and city leaders looking at what can be done locally, that survey information, we'll be able to use that, so it's important. So I really want to encourage everybody to participate and share what they think is, a reasonable and best response that they need to for business. And I don't know if Courtney mentioned this, so if I'm repeating it, I apologize. The State Commerce Department is also going to be participating in a state agency briefing at 11 a.m. tomorrow, talking about the various provisions of the CARES Act, the SBA programming, basically all the federal stimulus that has come down to support small business in the face of COVID-19. That's hosted by the North Dakota Chamber. You can access that and register for it at ndchamber.com. And it's just a fantastic forum. And it's really the first opportunity, I think, after people have had an opportunity to absorb some of those details, to kind of share what they know. And I'm sure there'll be more to come and more refinement, but I think it'll be our first really good opportunity to get some detail on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Keith. And while this was all going on, Courtney has posted that owners' salary can be included in the PPP within some parameters. So again, thanks for being here, Courtney, and thanks for all the great information. Andy Conlon from the city. Andy, can you tell us where people can get the recordings if they have friends or business associates that they'd like to direct to this? Where can people get this information, these sessions and the information that emerges from them?
Sure. So I will, it'll be on the city website, as will links and some information about the Chamber's upcoming sessions, but the links to previous sessions as well as chat transcripts, and then this one as well will be located on the city website. I'll grab the link here, the specific link, and throw it in the chat for everyone to grab here.
So if I go to the city website, what links would I follow to get to these recordings?
I will find the link right now and post it in the chat for everybody.
Very good. All right, thanks. Last week we hosted a series of 4 of these sessions for the for-profit business community. There was a 5th on Friday for the nonprofit business community. Also a major employer, part of our employment sector in town, the nonprofits. We didn't think that there was a need for a daily session like we did last week. However, this is a nimble local government at work, and this is a rapidly changing situation. So we will move on these as necessary, but at a minimum, you can count on at least 1 or 2 of these each week. We'll be looking for a different focus on each. Matt Bonser has just said the business owners are really looking at their elected leaders right now to be transparent and forthcoming as we consider some major financial decisions. And there's a local election coming up. It's very difficult to calculate how much money we may need to borrow if we don't know how long this is going to last. None of us know how long this is going to last. Courtney mentioned this is a very data-driven governor. The city is looking to the state for direction, especially on a lot of these larger financial packages like the CARES Act. Federal directives, federal money coming through the state, being interpreted at the local level. But here in Grand Forks, we're not waiting for the state and the feds to rescue us. We're working together in our collaborative fashion to try to identify problems and move forward with local solutions as quickly as we can. So your previous comments, Matt, Ryan is going to be taking those. You'll be hearing information very soon. Blue Weber from the DDA, one more thing there?
Yeah, so when we're talking about all the SBA disaster loans, the PPP, the EIDL, almost universally the first step that everybody should be taking, and if you haven't already done so, I highly recommend it, contacting your local lender. We're in the process of working on the PPP paperwork with our local lender, and I cannot recommend it enough to talk to them. The state leadership and the local leadership will have some questions, some answers, but they are the best people to kind of start those conversations with. And I just wanted to mention it really quick.
Very good. Thanks, Blue. So come to this Zoom address for the Chambers series that'll be going on this week. We've got one last question and then we'll be heading out here in just a moment. What happens if you have to lay staff off after you qualify for the PPP? Courtney or Blue, anyone know the answer to that? Go ahead.
So if you have to lay staff off after you qualify, it doesn't change your loan. It will change what you can have of the loan that will be considered forgivable. So that is based on what the starting full-time employee number is and what the ending full-time employee number is. And I can't tell you more detail than that. Someone asked me today, which I think is a good follow-up question. What if you had one full-time employee and you had to get rid of them and you got another full-time employee and that number is still the same? And that is a great question. And as of right now, I don't know the answer to that question. My assumption would be that, actually, I'm not even going to say what my assumption is because I don't want to confuse anyone. I will ask that question because it was asked of me at my meeting right before this one. So
Very good. So Courtney, I won't try to put words in your mouth or anyone else's, but it's my sense that both Congress, the governor, recognize that this is a dynamic, rapidly changing situation, and that these programs are not meant to just address today's problems, but meant to be as flexible as possible to address the ever-changing problem. And the process of interpreting all of this is going to be dynamic as well. With that said, it is 3:55. Thanks everybody for coming out. We'll be hosting these at least every Wednesday, if not more often as they come up. And at this point, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone so that we can all get to the governor's press conference at 4 o'clock. Thanks now.
thank you.
Bye-bye.